It's a
Um,
good reality there.
Hey, I wanted to share this story. Butterlegs asks, which race between you is the most memorable? Why is it San Diego 2005? Butterlegs, thanks for the question. Um, I, I mean, we have so many. Like Chad has described some great memories, like 2005, and Chad was the man at a lot of races. But especially like it'd be like me going to Atlanta. Like there was the same. I felt like Chad had those same fields going into San Diego each year. And like 2005, I look back and I always wonder, like, did you have races? We always look back and like, did you have races, ones that got away? And I look at that one as, okay, this is your place. Before I leave this, this career, I want to try to get him at San Diego. And 2005 was my best shot. And I wanted to ask you this part. I mean, and you're probably, I think I know what you're going to say, but I can't wait to hear what you had to say. Was there ever a point, because I know for me, like around lap 10 or 12, I'm like, and I knew where you were at and I felt good. I'm like, all right, like, I'm holding my own here. I'm like, I thought by like lap 12, 13, I'm like, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it. And so that was it for me. I was completely wrong. Typical Chad Reed style. You never, ever gave up. And yeah, you passed me on the last lap. I had my plan of what I was going to do. I think I've told you I was just going to send it through the whoops, and I was going to try to sky that single. What was it? A tight hairpin 180. I was just going to try to nudge you out of the way and hit that inside rut, because of course you were going to block, you were going to guard the inside and go to the inside. I'm like, well, if I can just like push him out the rut, I'll be good, and then get to the finish line. And I
Mhm.
ran out of talent there towards the end. But so for me, that, like, when I think of all of our battles, I'm like, damn, because most of the time you just straight up kick my tail, but that one, I'm like, fuck, I let that one get away for numerous reasons. But at the same time, not to take anything away from you, Mike, I was pissed at myself for that because I could have done better. Was there ever a moment in that race where you thought, like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to pull it off?
I mean,
Or no?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't think I was gonna get there, but I knew, like I had. You know how it is. Like when you're gauging, there was just enough hope. There was
Yeah.
more hope on the table than not,
Yeah.
and so I kind of just kept digging, and I held, like we were deep. Like I don't know if you remember, but like I crossed the finish line like literally right behind Mike LaRocca, who was P3. Like one more lap, we would have lapped the whole entire field. Um, so I've watched that race back on video, because it's a highlight for most people, and the whoops were really challenging. They had that one set after the finish line, if you remember, they were huge. And then the lappers, like as the track started to deteriorate, the lappers just seemed like they were playing a bigger part, and that was kind of really the meat on the end of the bone for me, was just keep digging, keep going, stay on top of the whoops, hit my marks, and I was taking just enough out of your lead to keep hope.
Yeah.
But to think that I was like, I mean, 2 laps to go, I didn't think I was going to get there. But as each lapper was a better rider. Like P4, like when you're going into lapping P5, 6, like fourth place,
Yeah.
those are good dudes, and back then. So anyway, I didn't feel threatened on the last lap, other than if anyone recalls the race. But I don't know if Villeman was P4 that night, but we had lapped him right before the whoops where you crashed, and I had caught myself on his outside, and so he kind of almost ran me wide, and so I had to
I
kind of
saw.
like,
Yeah.
and so I had to take a, like, instead of kind of doing my normal cut down and getting a good run through the whoops, I had to kind of ride the berm all the way across the top. And at that point, I just had to send the whoops as much as I could. And once I got a decent drive in the whoops, I kind of was like, okay, even his best run through the whoops is going to equal a decent run for me. And then I knew that I could handle,
Yeah.
block the inside, like you said. So we kind of had opposing, you know, counter, your attack,
Strategy. Yeah. Yeah.
your attack, my counter attack. Um, but San Diego was a fun race. but I'm gonna say that Daytona for me personally was my favorite and my probably the one trophy that you take to the grave, just because you were so gnarly and so badass there, and and you're always known for being good and strong and just
Yeah.
so good there. And I took such a beating the week before that I just was like Daytona, like I just, and it wasn't even that I beat you, it was that the two of us, like I felt like outside of your crash, we were just laying down laps
Oh
and
yeah.
like just yeah, like it's all time. Like for me, it's one
Yeah.
of the greatest races ever of just
Yeah.
and again, you had a helmet cam on that night. I remember, Rick Johnson in the booth, and he just says, like, I think it might have been even RJ and DB. I'm not 100% sure, but like, if they just like, we're not even going to talk, just listen. And it's like old school, your bike, my bike. Like you said, they
Mhm.
were so equal, uh, same
Yeah.
engine, same cylinder, essentially. And we had
Yeah.
such, like, that was the pinnacle of two-stroke 250 racing.
Yeah.
And I could watch that, on board camera all day long. And
Yeah.
how you rode behind, and then how I did my thing, but I wasn't blocking, but I was not leaving an inch for you to get
No.
in there.
Yeah.
Um, pretty fun one.
You yeah, I mean, you were so incredible that day, and like following you, I can't remember. I mean, did I even make it halfway before I fell down? I can't remember.
I think it was just after half. Like I want to say you crashed around like around like 10, 12. But
Okay.
I had started to
Yeah,
like
you weren't
chip away.
I wasn't gonna beat you that night.
No, I
So
no, I
at the
think so.
beginning of the race, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay close, right? And it was hard for me to stay close, and I had to take more chances than I really wanted to. So like, okay, automatically you already had me on the ropes. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not fast enough to pass him. So I'm just gonna my strategy. I'll just if I'm not fast enough to pass you, I'll just follow you, and then hopefully you'll get tired, and I'll get you like later on in the race. And I'm like, that was your pace was too hard for me to handle. So you had me going into the red zone, and then yeah, and essentially that's why I wrecked. I was riding over my limit. I wasn't as fast as you, and I tried too hard, and I crashed. And because you were on another level that night. So yeah, I mean, dude, yeah, I had nothing for you. You straight up, you took it to me that night, and I wouldn't have beat you because, like you said, it was just like I couldn't keep up, and even if it was a bike length a lap, you just had me on the ropes from the get go. And I'll never forget this one area, Reedy, is like right after the finish line, and it like turned left, and it had a hard right hand corner, and we popped back and jumped back up over the first corner there. And I
We were
just remember
tripling.
this. Is
Yeah.
that what we were doing? Yeah. And
We
I
were
just
tripling. It kind of went into like a hole, I think.
yeah,
And all I remember is the ruts were getting so gnarly. And it's
yeah,
like, and at that point, I had learned so much from you. I felt like I was kind of a veteran. We were equal in
yeah,
that mindset. Like I always felt what made it hard about beating you was the mindset of the war. Winning the war was always so big.
yeah,
And so you couldn't get each other off balance for one weekend. Like we always saw the bigger picture. And
mhm,
so like I just remember like, you know what? I'm gonna take risks. And I'm just like I was scraping like pegs off of this thing every lap, and I'm just like, I'm just going for it.
yeah. Dude, I remember like that area, and you're saying you were taking risks, and it was paying off for you. And I'm like, dude, I can't hit this freaking corner right. Like, what's going on? And blah blah blah. And it's like, I'm like, he's gonna win tonight. I can't. This is the toughest part of the track, and I should be good through here because, like you said, growing up in these kind of conditions, ruts and all that, like it played to. I felt like my bike setup in those conditions were better than yours, straight up,
Yeah.
just like softer, more compliant, whatever. And like I couldn't in an area that I should have been making up time, I couldn't. And I can remember it, dude, like it was right now. I'm like, nope. I said, he's got me tonight. He has got me tonight. And I'm just going to try to hang in, and hopefully he makes a mistake. If not, he's got me. And I could tell you weren't going to make a mistake, dude. You weren't like you were hitting your marks perfectly. You weren't making from what I could tell, you weren't making that many mistakes. I mean, you know when you got somebody, on the verge. And dude, that was awesome. Like I'm
One,
pumped
like
that I'm
there's
pumped you got it. I'm pumped that you got it. You deserved that win more than anybody.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.